So I'm going to talk a little bit about exploring consciousness and some of my own personal experiences and understandings in that regard. So when I was a senior in high school, then I was taking this photography class that I didn't need to graduate, so I decided to focus my attention more on the classes that I needed and sort of forget about this photography class and not worry about the grade that I was going to get for it. So there was a dark room that was not used by anybody because there was like a little bit of a crack somewhere, and so just a little bit of light got through. It was this very small little dark room that just maybe a couple people could fit in if they tried to. And so I began going into this dark room during the class, and I would just kind of forget about class because people kind of did their own thing anyways. And I would go in this dark room, close the door, and sit there in the darkness and basically meditate. I had never really read about meditation yet. This was when I was 17. But I enjoyed the experience of simply sitting there, being in the moment, exploring my own mind. So this, in a nutshell, I think, is the spiritual quest, is exploring your own consciousness and finding out what's in there. So consciousness is not something that's static. It isn't just, you're conscious or you're not conscious. It's on or it's off. Consciousness is a vast network of stuff that is within your mind, if you want to call it that, though it goes beyond the mind. There are many, of course, levels of consciousness. There are many different aspects to consciousness. But what I've discovered throughout my own spiritual path and various explorations is that consciousness is much more complex, convoluted, mysterious, and a vast realm that can be explored through meditation, yoga, contemplation, visions, using various mind-altering substances, and many other things. So I kind of liken it to a underground cave. So when I was in Turkey, in central Turkey, there's a region known as Cappadocia that's absolutely one of the most amazing places I've seen on my travels. There's a whole lot to see there, and I won't go into all that, but I will talk about one thing, which is that there are underground cities there that were constructed, who knows exactly when, because they're so ancient, but apparently they were constructed in periods of intense warfare so that people could basically live their lives undetected. And by cities, we're talking about as many as 30 to 50,000 people lived in these underground cities that were up to 12 levels deep and couldn't be seen whatsoever from the ground level. So you find a little tunnel with some stairs, you go down into it, and then you find this vast network of stairways, tunnels, rooms, some of them as large as, what was apparently a church. And so it's this whole network of tunnels and rooms and chambers that housed up to 30 to 50,000 people. And so I kind of liken our consciousness to something along those lines. You have these different levels of consciousness. You have these different paths and tunnels that you can explore. There are many different rooms and chambers with various purposes and with different qualities to them. So basically, a lot of us have, shut out a lot of these different aspects of our own consciousness. So there are rooms, there are doorways we haven't opened in who knows how long. There are rooms with potential that we don't utilize, and there are places that are filled with clutter. And so I sort of see the spiritual path as a matter of exploring throughout our consciousness and breaking open doorways in order to allow our being to merge into the fullness of our consciousness, of all that we are. So another analogy that I'll throw out there, while I'm throwing out analogies, is that our consciousness is like an island. There's the expression, no man or no person is an island. But what is an island? An island is not a hunk of ground that's floating on top of the ocean, correct? An island is connected to the ground. So from the surface, you might see an island and you see this little thing isolated sitting in the middle of the sea or the ocean somewhere, whereas in actuality, that island, if you go deeper under the ocean, then you will discover eventually that it is in fact connected to the whole rest of the earth, and it's just a little piece of the earth sticking up above the ocean. Well, our consciousness, our very being is like this. Because if you go deeper and deeper and deeper, then you will discover eventually that your consciousness, yourself, is actually just an expression of the totality of the earth, if you will, or God or divine consciousness, or whatever you want to call it. So I've experienced this in the midst of various explorations within, that the deeper you go, things start to kind of widen, and you discover that your own consciousness is basically a doorway, a pathway to universal consciousness. And so our spiritual path, as I see it, is essentially a matter of exploring throughout our consciousness in order to reclaim the parts of ourselves that we've locked ourselves away from. So these various tunnels and rooms that we've closed the door, locked them tight, and haven't revisited in who knows how long, then exploring these areas, going back into them, opening them back up, shedding light into them, letting the fresh air in, and discovering what is in there that we are hiding from, or that we have decided we don't want to look at, and allowing ourselves to basically expand back into these parts of ourselves that we have become disconnected from. Now, obviously, there are unpleasant things in a lot of these places. So there's memories, there's experiences that we've experienced throughout our life, and perhaps very likely past lives. And so through meditation and various other spiritual techniques, then we can access these areas, not necessarily with full consciousness, not necessarily that you have the full memory of something that occurred in a past life necessarily, but that you reclaim that energy. And that's the most important thing, is to connect with that part of yourself, open it up, and merge with it, become one with it. And so this is what can be achieved through meditation and various other things, is basically reconnecting with the rest of ourselves that we have become disconnected from.